Hey, my name's James and today I'm going to show you how to make this. It's a cool way to show off different projects and it's a great example of using nested components in Framer. Let's get into it. Here's our setup. We've got a few assets along the bottom here which I created earlier just to save time. They are an image frame which contains a phone mock-up and two icons which are just SVG graphics wrapped in stacks. I wrap them in stacks because I find that a little bit easier for placing them in the layout later on. And then a logo, which is again just an image frame. We'll start by creating the card. So I'll use a stack for this and we'll set that to say 720 width and 450 height. Now I want to place the phone mock-up inside the left part of the stack, and to do that I'm going to select it in the layers panel and drag that into the frame. That's absolutely positioned here so you can see it's outside of the frame. I'm going to unpin it and just take that to 0 and take it to 0 here as well. Now I'll select the stack and we'll call this project card and I'll set the background to white, and then I can select these two frames and remove the background from here. Then I will select the project card and we'll set a radius here of say 40. Next I want to take the logo and I'll drag that inside the frame. We'll center that, and then let's take the arrow and plus icon and we'll put them inside the project card. I'll set their position to absolute. Take the arrow and we'll place that in the top right, and then take the plus and we'll place that in the center. Just a bit of tidy up now. These frames, I'm going to keep them because they are actually helping with the layout. If I delete one of them, you can see the spacing starts to go awry. So we'll keep this one, we'll call it image, and we'll keep this one and we'll call it logo. And then I'm going to take the project card and just take the gap down to 0. And next we'll add some text to the bottom of the card. We'll do that here to start with. Segment is the name of the company, and then we'll paste in some content for the description. I'm going to select both of those text boxes, wrap them in a stack, we'll call that text, and I'll just style that with some pre-made styles. And we'll align it to the left. That's okay for now. I'm going to drop that into the card and you can see it messes up the layout. So what I'm going to do is take the image and the logo, wrap those in a stack, and we'll call those the assets, and we want those to almost be like a background. So I'm going to set those to absolute and we'll set the width to 100% relative, the height to 100% relative, and that brings us back, and then we'll pin that to each side. Then I just need to take the Z index to 0 and that brings the text forward. I'm going to select the project card and we're going to align this to the bottom, and then inside the text box we'll give that some padding and select both these text elements and we'll set those to fill. And then with the text stack I'll just bring the gap down to 8. Next I want to do something about this text because it's become hard to read. So I'll take the image and then let's add a mask to it. Select mask, and then I need to take the rotation off there, and then I'll just drag this opacity up slightly, bring this one down slightly so it's a kind of narrow gradient there. That looks okay. And then while I'm here I want to take the image and move this dominant black line really into the center. The first thing I can do to help address that is take the gap off this asset stack, and then I'm actually going to select the image. I'm going to zoom in and I'm just going to visually take that to the center. Of course now I've got the issue that this cross is going to be difficult to see. So if I go inside the plus icon and add a frame, that has given me a nice white background. I can center that. Oh, that's gone away because this frame is not actually in the plus icon stack. So I'll move that to absolute positioning and we'll center it, and then take the Z to -1. Zoom back out, and that's looking good. I think we're now ready to take this and create our component, and we'll call it project card. Now we've got our component, we need to do two main things. We need to set up the variables that we're going to pass into the component so that it's reusable for different cards, and then we need to set up the variants for our nested component later on. So let's start with the variables. The first thing is this image. We want this image to be a variable, and we'll call this the mockup. Next, we want the logo also to be a variable, a set of image again, and we'll call that logo. Then we also want to be able to pass in a title and a description. I'm just going to lock this assets panel so it's easier to select the text. We're going to call this the title, and then select this text, and we'll call this the description. Cool, now let's create our next variant. So the other type of variant we want, if you remember from the demo, is we want a kind of blurred version of this card. And that's pretty easy to do. We just need to select this assets panel. I'm going to unlock it, and then I'm going to add a style, add a filter, and add a blur of 2. And then the text, both of these I don't need to see. And then I'm going to select the plus icon, and we'll add a blur to that as well. I think this one doesn't need a 5 blur. I'll bring that down to 2 so you can still kind of see the cross. And then the arrow icon, we can get rid of that as well. Let's quickly rename these variants just so that they are a little bit more meaningful. So we'll have normal and blurry variants. Then I think we're ready to step out and create a collection of these project cards. So I'm going to create 3 of those. I'm going to move them into a stack, and then we'll set the stack direction to horizontal, and I will select these project cards and set them to fill, and then I need to take each of these and adjust their relative width. So the first one will keep as 1 frame, and then the second one I'm going to take to 0.3, and this one I'm going to take to 0.3 as well. And then these two, I need to switch the variant to blurry, switch the variant to blurry, and you can see I've got a kind of unwanted effect here, which is that the logo is bleeding over onto the other side. So I'm going to sort that issue out. Go back into the project card component, and then we select the logo, and I'm going to wrap that in a stack, and we'll call that min width, and I'll set a min width on that stack to, let's say, 225. And if we go back out, you can see that that has addressed the issue, and that looks nice. Now we just need to update the content of these 2 cards, and thanks to setting up these components with variables, we can easily do that by updating these variables on the right properties panel. I'm going to use the magic of video editing to do that because it's not so interesting to watch. Awesome, now we're ready to create our nested component, which is going to be this stack of project cards. So I'm going to call this projects and create another component. And here is where we are going to add the interactivity. Now I can create another 2 variants, and on the second variant, I'm going to switch this to 1 in terms of frame, and I'm going to make it normal. And then this one, we're going to go to 0.3, and we're going to go to blurry. And then on the third one, here we go 0.3, and we go blurry. And here we go 1, and we go normal. That looks good. Now we need the interaction. So selecting this one, I want to take to variant 2, and I want to do that on mouse enter. And then same again here, but this time we're going to go to variant 3, and then this one I want to go back to variant 1, and this one that's set up already because it was set up on the primary. And then this one I want to go back to variant 1, and that's looking good. Now I can test out my interaction, and that is looking great. As a final step though, I'll add an animation effect to this text and to this button here. I'll move into the project card, and I'm just going to select the text and select the arrow icon, add an effect. We'll do an appear effect, and we'll fade in fine, and we'll do an ease curve. 0.3 is fine, I think, and we'll set a delay here just so that the animation doesn't play until the card expands. And I think one last thing we'll do is we'll add a little offset here so that it kind of moves in from the bottom. I will just preview that here, and that seems okay. Then we'll step out to the main demo and see our finished product, and that's looking really smooth. That's it for today's video. Be sure to check out the remix link in the description below. It contains everything you've just seen, plus how to make it responsive on mobile. If you enjoyed the content, then like and subscribe before you go. See you next time.